Visualize this. You have a credit card with a $5,000 limit. You spend $2,000 on furniture. Cash is sitting in your bank account. You plan to pay it off completely the second the bill arrives. Statement hits your inbox. You pay the full balance immediately. Zero interest, zero late fees. Textbook responsible borrowing. 3 days later, your phone buzzes. Credit score alert. You just dropped 25 points. You did everything right. The algorithm punished you anyway. This happens to thousands of people every single month. And it's usually because of a fundamental misunderstanding about one specific date that nobody explains to you. My name is Sam. And today I'm showing you how the banking system actually takes its snapshot of your finances. How moving your payment by just 48 hours can be the difference between a good score and an exceptional one. And why the due date you've been obsessing over is actually the wrong date entirely. If you've ever watched your credit score tank after paying a bill on time, if you're confused why doing everything right still hurts your credit, if you want to understand how to actually manipulate the system instead of letting it manipulate you, stay with me. Subscribe if you want to learn the mechanics of money that banks hope you never figure out. Drop a like if you're already suspicious this whole credit system is designed to confuse you. Let's start with a trap that catches almost everyone. We're trained from childhood that the due date is the most important day in your financial life. Pay by the due date. Avoid interest. Avoid late fees. Stay responsible. In terms of not losing money, that's true. But here's the problem. We assume credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, are watching a live feed of our accounts. We assume if we pay off debt on the 15th, the bureau knows we're debt-free on the 16th. That's not how the plumbing works. The credit scoring system isn't a movie. It's a series of photographs. And the photographer usually takes the picture right when your room is messiest, days before you actually clean it up. Here's the actual timeline of a credit card cycle. And I need you to visualize this because understanding this sequence is the difference between a 720 and an 800 score. Let's say your billing cycle runs from the 1st to the 30th of the month. During those 30 days, you're swiping for groceries, gas, dinner. Balance is climbing. On the 30th, the cycle closes. The bank generates a statement. That PDF bill you get in your email. This is the critical moment. The statement closing date. The balance on that specific piece of paper is the number the bank sends to credit bureaus. It gets hard-coded into your credit report for that month. But your due date isn't until 25 days later, usually around the 25th of the next month. So you might have a balance of $3,000 on the 30th, which gets reported to the bureau. Even if you pay it all off on the 20th of the next month, the bureau sees high utilization, even though you paid perfectly on time. Pattern interrupt, show visual timeline, billing cycle, statement closing date, reported balance, due date, actual payment, gap between what gets reported and when you pay highlighted. This creates a massive psychological disconnect. You feel responsible because your bank account shows money leaving to pay the bill. But the credit report looks like you're maxing out your cards. I've talked to people terrified of using their credit cards because every time they make a big purchase, their score tanks, even though they have cash to cover it, even though they've never missed a payment. They start thinking the system is rigged against them, that credit cards are inherently dangerous. It's not that the system is broken, it's bureaucratic. The system is lagging, reporting yesterday's news. You're living in real time. Your credit score is living on a 30-day delay based on a snapshot taken before you made your payment. If you don't control when that snapshot is taken, you're letting the bank dictate your creditworthiness based on your worst day of the month. The solution is what people call the statement date hack, though it's less of a hack and more of a timing adjustment that banks desperately hope you never figure out. Instead of waiting for the bill to arrive and then paying it, you pay the bill before it's generated. You pay down your balance 3 or 4 days before the statement closing date. When the statement closes on the 30th, the bill generates showing a balance of maybe $10. That $10 balance is what gets sent to bureaus. Suddenly, the snapshot they receive shows you using almost none of your credit. Then on the due date 3 weeks later, you just pay that remaining $10. You use the card normally. But the record shows you barely touched your limit. Now you might be thinking, does it really matter if they report $1,000 or $10 as long as I pay it? You might assume the difference is just a point or two. If that's what you think, you're underestimating the algorithm significantly. Crossing the wrong utilization threshold can tank your score faster than almost anything short of a missed payment. Let me show you exactly how heavy this weight is. Pattern interrupt, show FICO score breakdown pie chart. Payment history 35%. Amounts owed 30% highlighted. Look at the FICO breakdown. Payment history is the biggest slice at 35%. Makes sense. Did you pay your bills? But the second biggest slice, coming in at a massive 30%, is amounts owed. This is almost entirely driven by your credit utilization ratio. Think about that. Nearly 1/3 of your financial reputation is based solely on how much of your available credit you're using right now. It's weighted heavier than length of credit history, heavier than your mix of credit types. You could have a perfect 10-year history, but if you max out your cards for 1 month, that 30% slice crumbles and your score drags down with it. Highly sensitive, highly volatile. The math is simple division, but the impact is tiered. Utilization is your current balance divided by your credit limit. If you owe $500 on a $1,000 card, you're at 50%. The scoring models generally hate anything above 30%. That's the first major cliff. Cross 30%, you look like a risk. Cross 50%, you look like a crisis. Max it out near 100%, your score goes into freefall. But here's the nuance. This applies to both your overall credit utilization, all cards combined, and your individual card utilization. You could have $50,000 in total available credit, but if you have one single card with a $500 limit that's maxed out, your score will suffer. The algorithm flags that one maxed account as a sign of distress. I call this the panic zone. I've seen people with 800 credit scores drop into the 740 seconds just because they booked a family vacation on a card with a low limit. They didn't miss a payment, didn't apply for new credit, just let utilization spike across a threshold on the statement date. Panic sets in because most people don't know why it happened. They check their app, see the drop, assume identity theft or banking error. Reality is just the cold math of the 30% weighting kicking in. The system views high utilization as precursor to default. Historically, people who max out cards are more likely to go broke, so the score adjusts to reflect that risk immediately. Good news is that utilization has no memory in most common scoring models like FICO 8. Unlike a missed payment which haunts you for 7 years, utilization is memoryless. As soon as a new balance is reported, the old one is forgotten. If you were at 90% utilization in January and your score tanked but you pay it down to 5% in February, your score bounces back as if the 90% never happened. This is why the statement date hack is so powerful. You're not fixing a permanent scar, you're just correcting the current data point. You can fix a utilization issue in 30 days or less. So logically, you might think the goal is to get your reported balance to zero every single month. If low is good, zero must be perfect. Stop right there. Consistently reporting a zero balance across every single card can actually result in a lower score than reporting a small balance. Sounds crazy. But the system penalizes you for looking like a ghost. This is one of the most stubborn myths in the credit world. People wear the zero balance badge with pride. Pay everything off 3 days early so the statement reads $0. Great for your peace of mind. Confuses the FICO algorithm. The scoring model is designed to assess how you manage debt. If your report shows zero owed month after month, the model has no data on how you handle repayment. Looks like you aren't using your credit at all. In the eyes of the algorithm, a person who doesn't use credit is slightly riskier than a person who uses it responsibly. You aren't demonstrating the behavior they want to score. To maximize your score, you want the sweet spot. My FICO data suggests high achievers, people with 850 scores, average about 4 to 7% utilization rate. They don't have 0%. They have a small manageable balance reported. There's a strategy for this called AZO, all zero except one. If you have 5 credit cards, you pay 4 of them to zero before the statement date. For the 5th card, you pay it down so it reports a tiny balance, maybe $10 or $20, roughly 1% of the limit. This tells the algorithm, yes, I'm using credit, but yes, I'm keeping it extremely low. This specific mathematical state triggers the highest possible points for the amounts owed category. Pattern interrupt, show example. 5 cards, 4 at $0, 1 at $15 on 1500 limit, 1% utilization, optimal scoring position highlighted. I know what you're thinking. If I leave a balance, I'm going to pay interest. This is where terminology trips people up. Reporting a balance is not the same as carrying a balance. Remember the timeline. Statement closes on the 30th with a $10 balance that gets reported. You have until the due date, usually the 20th of next month, to pay that $10. As long as you pay that $10 by the due date, you pay 0 interest. You get the credit score boost of showing activity. You get the financial benefit of paying no interest. You're threading the needle between the reporting date and the due date. So here's the protocol for perfectionists. If you're applying for a mortgage next month and you need every single point possible, don't go to 0 flat, go to 1%. Pay down your primary card so when the statement cuts, it shows a trivial amount. Buy a coffee or leave $10 on there. Ensure every other card is at 0. This provides the active use signal without the risk signal. However, if you aren't applying for a mortgage soon, don't stress about the AZO method perfectly. Just keeping utilization below 10% naturally is usually enough to stay in the 760 plus range. But if you want that 800, you need to manage the 1%. We have the theory down. You pay before the statement cuts. But here's where people mess it up in practice. They rely on auto pay. If you have auto pay set to pay statement balance, you've already lost the game. Auto pay is designed to keep you from being late, not designed to optimize your score. If you want to use this strategy, you have to turn off autopilot and take manual control. Step 1. Information gathering. You need to know the statement closing date for every card you own. This is not always obvious in the mobile app. Often the app screams the due date at you because they want you to pay. To find the closing date, you usually have to go to Statements tab and actually open a PDF of a past bill. Look for billing cycle ends or next closing date. Put these dates in your calendar as recurring monthly events. If your card closes on the 15th, set a reminder for the 13th. That 2-day buffer is crucial because transfers from your bank can sometimes take a day or two to clear and post. Step 2. The math. On the 13th, your reminder day, log in and look at your current balance. Let's say it's $800. If you want to report a $10 balance, you manually push a payment of $790 right then and there. Do not wait for autopay. Initiate the transfer. This drops your current balance to $10 pending the transaction clearing. When the 15th rolls around and the computer generates your statement, it sees $10. That's the number that flies off to Experian. You've successfully curated your credit report, manipulated the snapshot. Step 3. Cleanup. After the statement closes and you get that email saying your statement is ready, open it. Should say new balance $10. Minimum due $10. Now you just need to ensure that $10 gets paid before the due date, likely 20 days later. If you have autopay set to pay statement balance, it should theoretically pull that $10 automatically on the due date. However, I always recommend manually checking the first few times you try this. You don't want to be so clever with utilization that you accidentally miss a payment and trade a temporary score boost for a permanent late payment penalty. Quick note on consistency. You don't need to do this for every card every month unless you're actively grooming your score for a loan. It's high maintenance. I personally only do this micromanagement style when I know I'm applying for something in the next 60 days. For the rest of the year, I just keep utilization generally low, under 10 or 20%, and let autopay handle the rest. Your score will fluctuate naturally. That's fine. The point of this hack is that you have a lever you can pull on demand to maximize your score exactly when you need it. There is, however, a way to abuse this that can get your accounts shut down. It's called credit cycling. If you have a $1,000 limit and you spend $1,000, pay it off mid-month, spend another $1,000, pay it off, spend another $1,000, you've technically used $3,000 of credit on a $1,000 limit. You might think the bank loves you for this. You'd be wrong. To a bank's risk department, this looks like money laundering or bust-out fraud. Credit cycling is when you cycle through your credit limit multiple times within a single billing period. While paying down your balance before the statement date is good, doing it repeatedly to artificially extend your credit limit is dangerous. If you have a $1,000 limit, banks generally expect you to spend up to $1,000 a month. If you're spending $3,000 a month by paying it off every week, you're circumventing their risk tolerance. They gave you a $1,000 limit for a reason. That's how much exposure they want with you. By cycling, you're forcing them to take on more transaction volume than they agreed to. This can trigger a financial review where they freeze your accounts and ask for tax returns. Or they might just close your account entirely. To avoid looking like a risk, keep your spending roughly within your credit limit for that month, even if you're paying it down early. If you find yourself constantly hitting your limit and needing to pay it down just to use the card again, you don't need a payment hack. You need a credit limit increase. Call the issuer, ask for a higher limit, explain you pay in full every month and need more room for daily expenses. Higher limits make utilization management much easier. If you have a $20,000 limit, spending $2,000 is only 10% utilization. You don't even have to use the hack. You're naturally in the excellent range. We also need to look at the future of scoring. Most lenders currently use FICO 8, which is the snapshot model we discussed. It forgets the past. But newer models like FICO 10 trillions use trended data. They look at your balance history over the last 20 to 4 months. If you historically run up huge balances and only pay them down at the last second, FICO 10 trillions might see that trend. While the statement date hack still works for the utilization component, trended data models are smarter. They can see if you're actually living on the edge or if you're truly low risk. That said, FICO 10 trillions adoption is slow. For now, the snapshot strategy is still king for mortgages and auto loans. Finally, a defensive tip. Sometimes people try to simplify their finances by closing old, unused credit cards. In the context of utilization, this is a mistake. Your utilization is calculated on both a per-card basis and an overall basis. If you close a card with a $10,000 limit that has a zero balance, you're removing $10,000 of available credit from your denominator. Your total debt stays the same, but your total limit drops, which means your utilization percentage spikes instantly. Keep old cards open, put a small recurring subscription on them like Netflix, set it to autopay, and let them pad your utilization numbers. They're the ballast keeping your ship steady. Let's recap the protocol. First, stop looking at the due date as the only date that matters, or find your statement closing date. Second, calculate your utilization. You want under 30% for good scores and under 10% for excellent scores. Third, 3 days before your statement closes, log in and pay down your balance to a very low number. Ideally not zero if you want to maximize the score. Leave 1% or a small nominal amount. Fourth, let the statement close. The bank reports that low number to bureaus. Your score jumps or stays high. Finally, pay off that remaining small chunk by the actual due date to avoid interest. It's a two-step payment process that effectively decouples your spending from your credit report. The banking system is built on rules. Most people only learn the rules about fees and interest, but the rules about reporting and data are just as powerful. By taking control of the snapshot, you stop being a victim of the algorithm and start being the manager of it. I want you to try this for 1 month. Pick one card, find the date, pay it down early, watch your monitoring app. When you see that score jump, come back and drop a comment with how many points you gained. It helps verify this works for everyone else watching. If this explained why your score tanks even when you pay on time, subscribe. I break down the financial mechanics banks hope you never figure out. Next video is about why your savings account is quietly making you poorer even when the balance grows. You're not going to want to miss that one. I'll see you there.